Good day, everyone. I'm going to present to you my lecture and discussion about the public safety operation. So let's proceed immediately. I'm going to discuss the 4.1 on the public safety operation, which is the PNP Critical Incident Management Operational Procedure. Okay, so as a matter of policy, the human-induced or what we call the man-made critical incidents are the responsibilities of the NPOC or yung tinatawag nating National and Local Peace and Order Council. So sila yung in charge sa mga strategies or measures that would keep peace and that would address those peace and order problems, especially when it comes to criminality. Ganun. So, yung mga man-made critical incidents, itong agency na to, which is NPOC, yung responsible. Well, when it comes naman to natural calamities and disasters, like typhoons, floods, ang in charge dito is yung NDRRMC, or yung what we call the National and Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. So, yun. Well, so the PNP, since sila yung forefront or yung may mas malaking responsibility when it comes to crisis situations, they should be the one that must play an active role by organizing their own CMC or the Critical Incident Management Committee, which can be used to support the NPOC or the NDRRMC. So when we say the Critical Incident Management Committee, it is concerned with the formulation of crisis management procedures, integration of the government to prevention of crisis incidents, like yung mga ways to prevent crisis incidents. So, but all of the actions ng CMCs, it must be within the policies or dapat naka-align sa policies that was given by the corresponding POCs or the Peace and Order Councils. So next here is the NPOC, which is chaired by the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. They are tasked to contribute to the strategies of the National Security Council. So they will coordinate, and monitor or serve as the forum for deliberation or yung careful consideration or discussions of peace and order concerns. So this council will outline its roles and responsibilities to threats to peace and order. Ganon. Another is the Incident Command System or ICS. So they shall be adapted as the template in responding the critical incidents. So they will be the one to provide guidance to the PNP's roles on how to organize their assets. To respond to the incident and processes to manage the response through its successive stages. So next here is we are going to discuss the types of critical incidents. So first is that PNP incident management operations will complement with the Peace and Order Councils, the CMCs and the DRRMC from the national, regional, provincial, city, and municipal levels. So the procedures under this rule shall be observed by all PNP units or offices with respect to their roles in addressing the human-induced incidents and police responses to the natural calamities and disasters. So, first type of critical incidents is the natural calamity and disaster. So when it comes to natural calamity and disaster, the PNP must act as the first responder in those affected area. So they will be the one to be the first responder in order to provide security doon and support sa mga nasaktan or biktima, ganun. So pag sa typhoon, yung mga nasalanta, so they will support in the conduct of search or rescue operations sa mga victims ng disaster, pati yung mga retrieval operations that na pinapangunahan ng DRRMCs. So next type is the human-induced incidents. So in the event of human-induced incidents or man-made incidents, the PNP will respond in two different situations. So yung first situation dito is to manage the incident that can be resolved by these police officers response without yung involvement ng crisis management committee. So yung situation na ito is pwedeng ma-resolve or ma-respond din ng PNP or police officers nang hindi nila kinakailangan yung CMCs. Pero dito naman, yung isang situation naman is they are going to manage the incidents wherein they need the CMC directed operation requiring the implementation of special task by one or more of the urgent services of the Philippine government. Yung example nito is yung mga very critical na pangyayari na kinakailangan nila yung tulong ng ibang agencies or special task of the Philippine government. So, please note that both the actions of the PNP in either situation follows the ICS operational procedures. So yung ICS is the Incident Command System. So they must follow the Incident Command System procedures. So all the actions of the PNP in addressing the critical incidents are in support to the POC, CMCs, and DRR MCs with common objectives. Yung common objectives nila is saving lives and properties, resolution of the critical incidents at the earliest possible time, and yung restoration of normalcy in the affected area. So based on the National Crisis Management Corps Manual Series of 2012, the National Crisis Management Framework provides the comprehensive approach in order to understand the components of a crisis of the 5 P's of the crisis management. Okay, so next here is the stages in disaster management. So first stage is the pre-disaster stage. Dito is a proactive assessment on or when there is no disaster or calamity yet. So, yung first step nila dito is yung risk mapping and identification of disaster-prone areas. So they are going to conduct risk mapping wherein titingnan nila yung mga lugar or yung mga areas wherein prone sa disaster. So yun, titingnan nila yung mga yun, and then after that they are going to identify or identification of staging areas, mga evacuation routes and evacuation centers na pwedeng pagdalhan sa mga biktima if ever there is an incident that will occur. Another is disaster response drills, simulation exercises, and trainings for floods, earthquake, fire, etc. For example nito is yung mga itinuturo nila sa paaralan, yung mga fire drills, earthquake drills na ginagawa nila or pumupunta sila sa paaralan to teach that students kung paano yung ways na pag-iwas sa mga ganito in case na may mag-occur. Ganun. So, another is meeting of regular task groups and sub-task groups together with respective levels of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Councils. Yung meeting nila for the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Councils. So, next is capability audit. Ito yung mga manpower, ito yung machines, materials, money, and methods that can be used. And F is the awareness campaign through TRIMP. TRIMP is Training Impulse. So, awareness campaign. So, next G is community mobilization activities such as but not limited to. Yung A dito is sewerage cleanup, yung paglilinis ng mga sewerage, ganun. So, declogging of waters, canals, esteros, paglilinis ng mga canals, mga waterways na pwedeng magdulot ng floods, ganun. And clearing of unauthorized structures in disaster-prone prone areas, yung mga hindi dapat na naipatayo that is on a disaster prone areas. So next here is disaster response stage. Itong stage naman na ito is yung disaster incident management, yung pagmamanage na meron na yung incident. So that is level 2, red. So when there is an impending natural calamity or unexpected human-induced incidents that has occurred. So first, dito sa natural calamity. So yung gagawin nila is they are going to activate the disaster incident management task groups or yung DIMPG. And they will coordinate with the NDRRMC to support this disaster response. So nung pag nalaman na nila na mayroong ganitong nangyari, for example, yung disaster like typhoon, yung mga may nasasalanta, they will going to activate the DIMPG and will coordinate sa NDRRMC, which is responsible to the natural calamities, for them to support the disaster response. They also employ alarm and warning systems such as the use of police sirens, mga ganon, and other portable warning system that is capable of producing loud wailing sound in order to let the people become aware sa pangyayari or sa pagpunta or pagresponde ng mga agency na to. So is provision of security in calamity, yung pag-provide nila ng security sa calamity area para walang masaktan ganun, or para mailigtas nila yung mga families or mga people in that area. So they also support in search, rescue and retrieval operations, and yung pagpunta sa mga evacuation and emergency medical services in coordination with the concerned DRRMC. So, yun. When it comes to human-induced incidents naman is yung activation nito is, i-activate nila dito is yung Critical Incident Management Task Group, CIMTG, na iba dito sa natural calamity which is the DIMPG yung i-activate nila doon, or yung isa-send nila. So, next is coordination with the NPOC. Dito naman is yung NPOC CMC, which is responsible when it comes to human-induced incidents. So, they are going to support the crisis response, yung pag-responde. So, the third step is they are going to evacuate the residents in the crisis area with the coordination of the concerned government agencies and provision of security as well in that crisis area, supporting search, rescue, and retrieval operations ng mga nabiktima, putting them in an evacuation and emergency medical services with the coordination of the concerned agencies. So that is all. Next dito is post-disaster stage. Dito naman is yung tapos na. So that is the support to recovery and rehabilitation efforts. So that is level 3, white. So dito is the acquisition of rapid damage assessment and needs analysis, or the RDANA reports from the concerned Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council of the affected areas. Yung pag-acquire nila ng mga assessments or reports that was sent by the DRRMC doon sa affected areas, about dun sa affected areas. Next is they are going to do the deployment of personnel for relief operations, yung pagbigay ng mga relief goods sa mga nasalanta or yung mga nabiktima or ganun. So, next nito is provision of security and traffic assistance to returning evacuees. Dito naman is, syempre, tapos na, diba? So, they are going to provide assistance sa mga nag-evacuate doon sa area. So, and security as well. Another is submission of after-disaster response report to the PNP, the copy-furnished DRRMC, and the deactivation of the DIMTG or CIMTG when the situation is already manageable in the disaster-stricken area. So, yung pag-deactivate na nila doon sa mga DIMTG and CIMTG doon sa affected area. So, in the management of the dead and missing persons or yung MDM, yung PNP-CL shall take the lead in identifying the remains of the victim. Yung PNP sila yung magli-lead sa pag-identify ng uh, mga natirang biktima ganun, during and after the human-induced disasters. While yung NBI, sila yung mag-lead sa pag-identify ng mga remains of the victims during and after the natural calamity. So, PNP for human-induced disasters and NBI for natural calamity. So, letter C, it is the alert levels during human-induced critical incident. So, terrorism and threat group alert levels shall be disseminated by the TDI to all concerned offices based on the information provided by the NICA. So, yung NICA pala is the National Intelligence Coordination Agency. So, in here, there are 4 levels. The level 1, the law, level 2 to 4. Okay? So, for level 1, that is law, there is no information to suggest that a specific human-induced incident will occur or may occur. Okay? So, that is for level 1. For level 2, that is moderate. Okay? So, there is an human-induced critical incident is possible but not likely. Possible lang po siya. And for level 3, that is high, there is a strong possibility that human-induced critical incident may occur within a short period of time. Okay? And for level 4, that is extreme, so a human-induced critical incident has just occurred and or has just been preempted. Okay? So that is the 4 levels in a human-induced critical incident. Okay, so letter D is the Incident Command System or what we call the ICS. Okay, so the ICS is provided under the National Crisis Management Core Manual and is structured on 6 major functional areas. So, okay, so these are the command, the operations, planning, logistics, finance, administration, and ito intelligence and investigation. It is an optional 7th functional area that is activated on a case-to-case basis. Okay, so on the enactment of the Republic Act 10121 or otherwise known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Law on May 27, 2010, the Philippine government took a proactive approach in managing the disaster consequences and reducing disaster risk by institutionalizing various mechanisms. So among this is the ICS, is narito yung Incident Command System. Okay, so ICS also is one of the flagship programs of the Office of the Civil Defense or the OCD. And as provided for RA 10121, the NDRRMC Memorandum Circular Number 4 Series 2012 and the Executive Order Number 82 Series 2012, the ICS has been used as an on-scene or all-hazard incident management concept that was being introduced by the U.S. Forest Service, which can be used by all DRRM councils, so emergency management and response agencies. It is a disaster response tool that coordinates the actions of all response groups. Another is that this ICS has been proven effective in managing potential and actual disaster consequences. It is significantly enhanced the mechanism for resource management, reporting and documentation, promotion of responder safety, and even optimum achievement of response objectives as evident in past major disaster response operation to include the management of planned high-density population gatherings. Okay, so that letter E, that is organization and structure of CIMC, CIMTG, and DIMPG. So in accordance with Executive Order Number 82, Series of 2012, the CMCs shall be established at all levels, specifically to take decisive action in responding and managing those human-induced crises. The local CMC, that is headed by the local chief executive as the responsible officer. Okay, so they designates the incident commander whenever particular crisis occurs. So if the LPU commander is designated as the IC, the CIMTG shall be immediately activated to support the CMC. Okay, so under the organization and structure of CIMC, CIMTG, or DIMTG, we have here the CMC, or the Crisis Management Committee. Okay, so as I said kanina, that CMC is concerned with the formulation of the crisis management procedures, integration and orchestration of the government, the military or police, and even the public efforts for the prevention and control of the crisis incidents. But then, yung mga actions and decisions nila dapat, they must be within the policies that was given or that was laid down by the corresponding POCs, or what we call the Police Peace and Order Council. Okay, so next year, number 2 is the PNP NHQ, or the Critical Incident Management Committee. Okay, so the PNP National Headquarters Critical Incident Management Committee. So they must organize its CIMC with 5 subcommittees. So these are the Subcommittee on Criminality, Subcommittee on Destabilization, Public Disturbance and Planned Events, mga ganun. Subcommittee on Terrorism and CBRNE. Ito yung mga chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear and high-yield explosive weapons, itong CBRNE. And another subcommittee here is the Subcommittee on Public Health Hazards, and lastly, the Subcommittee on Natural Disasters. So this committee will be held responsible to all criminal incidents, whether human-induced or natural disaster. So they shall also supervise or oversee operations of the concerned offices or units in order to mitigate their effects on the general populace. So the PNP NHQ CIMC is concerned with the implementation of policies and orchestration or arrangement of PNP's force and resources, and even the efforts towards the control and mitigation of critical incidents. And another is that this DIMTG, CIMTG must also be activated and serve as a special operating task group of the CIMC. Okay, so that is it. Number 3 is the CIMTG, or what we call the Critical Incident Management Task Group. So, to carry out the mandates of the PNP Critical Incident Management Committee on the human-induced incident, these CIMTGs shall be organized and replicated at the PRO and CRPO, or the National Capital Region Police Office, or the Police Regional Office that is on the regional level, down to the PPO-CPO, or the Police Provincial Office, and papunta siya sa CPS, MPS, doon sa Municipal Police Station level, following the structure of the ICS. Okay, so mula sa taas, sa regional level, papunta sa municipal level, Municipal Police Station level. So, they must also follow the structure of the ICS, or the Incident Command System. So, in here, the IC, or the Incident Commander, shall be designated by the chairman, while CMC and CIMTG to be complemented by the officers of the office who has functional staff, functions in organization. So, yun. Another is that in here, in the regional or provincial, city, municipal level, itong mga PNP's response to any crisis will be to activate the CIMTG para sa mga human-induced incident, and DIMTG naman for natural disasters. So, the regional director, provincial or city director, even the chief of police, shall have the authority. Sila yung may authority na mag-activate dito sa CIMTG and DIMTG. So, sa baba nito, meron tayo yung mga considered as human-induced critical incidents. Ito yung mga abduction involving prominent personalities such as national and local government officials, foreign nationals, diplomats, mga ambassadors, consuls, foreign tourists, religious leaders, mga attacks on vital installations, communities, and prominent personalities, jailbreaks, heinous crimes like assassination, robbery, hold-up, mga ganun, election-related violent incident, mga international and national events, terrorism, conflagration incident, major road accidents, mass transport accidents, aircraft hijackings, meron pa mga mishaps, bombings, mga ganun, hanggang dito sa oil spills, and other similar human-induced critical incident that will result for human casualties, yung problema ng mga tao, and or mass destruction of properties and environment. Basta when it comes to human casualties or yung mga destruction of properties and environment, that is one example or of human-induced critical incidents, yung gawa ng tao. So as applicable here, the following will be designated to handle the functional responsibilities of the CIMTG depende sa level ng activation nila. So, nandito yung mga incident commanders, which, yes, deputy incident commanders, public information officer, liaison officer, safety officer, operations or plant staff, intel or invest staff, budget and logistics staffs. So that is it. And in accordance with the Executive Order 320 or 320 as amended, yung NPOC has constituted the CMCs at all levels, specifically to take the decisive actions in emerging situations. So, yun. Next, number 4 is the Disaster Incident Management Task Group, or what we call the DIMPG. So, DIMPG shall also be established and shall serve as a special operating task group ng PNP Subcommittee on Disaster Management. Yun, for disaster naman to. So, they will assist the Police Regional Office, DIMPG, as the chairman or the task coordinator. So, PNP SCDM, itong PNP Subcommittee on Disaster Management, may direct. Yan. So, the NHQ or the NHQ PNP shall be composed of the NSUs or the National Support Units to be headed by the Director, PNP Special Action Force. Naman ay sa Task Group Commander with the Deputy Director of the PCRG or the Police Community Relations Group as the Deputy Group Commander. So, yon. So, next dito is yung next year is the DIMPG. Okay? So, they shall also be activated at the PPO or the Police Provincial Office, PRO, CPO, mga yon. So from provincial offices to municipal police stations level, depende sa affected area. So, itong sa regional DIMTG, they shall be activated if there is 2 or more provinces or cities that are affected by a disaster. Next naman is yung provincial DIMTG yung ma-activate if merong 2 or more municipalities that are affected. Ganon. While itong municipal DIMTG naman, kapag 2 or higit pang barangays yung naapektuhan ng disaster. So, ang mga ito, they are considered na natural disaster incidents. Itong mga floods, landslides, volcanic eruption, earthquake, tidal wave, tsunami, storm surge, forest fires, drought, meteorite impact, tornado, and other natural hazards that may lead to colossal loss of property and lives of human beings. So, the following shall be designated to handle the functional responsibilities of the DIMPG. Ito yung mga incident commanders, Deputy Incident Commander, Public Information Officer, Liaison Officer, Safety Officer, Operations or Plant Staff, Intel or Invest Staffs, Budget and Logistics Staffs, and Finance Admin Staffs. So, yun. Next, letter F, the Escalation Protocols. So, in these escalation protocols, the responsibility of addressing crises can be transferred if the increasing needs in handling the incidents are beyond the capability of the CIMPG or DIMPG, or if there is a jurisdictional change when the incident moves location or area of responsibility that crosses boundaries. So the transfer of responsibility during a crisis must always include the transfer of a command briefing, which may be oral, written, or combination of both. So, number one here is for the Human-Induced Escalation Protocol. So, dito is yung CIMPG, diba? So, to attain a smooth transition of command responsibility, the table below, na ipapakita ko mamaya, shows the conditions or the situations in any crisis level that will be considered. So, andito siya, 3.1, the Human-Induced Escalation Protocols. So, yung CIMTG activation level, for the municipal or city, MPS, CTS numbered. So, yung conditions or situations dito sa CIMTG activation level ng municipality, it is A, the local PNP and the local CMC are in control of the situation. So, they are in control nung sa situation pa sa mga critical incidents. Another is that there is an appropriate resources that are available and is capable of either the municipal or the barangay level. So, yun. Next is the for provincial or district CIMTG activation level. So, yung mga local PNP at the municipal city level are unable to resolve na yung crisis within their capabilities. And another is that the situation is that the municipality or the city CMC recommends the elevation of the crisis level. And this situation also requires the employment of security forces and utilization of resources of the provincial level organization and beyond. And lastly, the incident affects 2 or more municipalities within the same province or district. So dito sa provincial district or provincial or district, yung yung incidents, it affects 2 or more municipalities doon within that province or district. Okay? So next here is the regional or the provincial regional office or NCRPO. So in this level, the situation requires employment of security forces and utilization of resources of the regional level organization. And it is upon the recommendation of the provincial CMC. Of course, they will transfer for regional kapag hindi na kaya ng provincial CMC. So, yung another is that the incident involves foreign nationals, either perpetrators or the victims, and that the incident also affects 2 or more provinces, districts within the same region. So, dito sa regional is there are 2 or more provinces or district that was being affected by this incident within that the same region. Okay? So, yun yung tanda. Next here is for national naman. National or NHQ. Dito is there is a terrorism attached that is resulting into mass casualties. Meron na yung terrorism. And it is upon the recommendation of the regional CMC. Okay? So, maitra-transfer na dito sa national from the recommendation of the regional CMC, hindi nila kaya yon. So, they will transfer to the national level. para sa response ng ganitong incidents. So, in this level, the incident involves foreign nationals, either the perpetrators or victims as well. So, the national security issues are at stake here, such as yung mga foods, water, energy, critical transportation, and communication structure. Even the environment, they are being threatened dito sa level na ito. And another is that the incidents that happens here in this level will affect the national capital region or two or more regions. Okay? So, between dalawa o higit pang regions dito sa national level. So, but the task group commanders will remain. Okay? Dito is the task group commanders will remain in command in their respective provincial regional office. Ganun. They should be remain in command. Okay? So that is for human-induced incidents. Yes, human-induced escalation protocols. For table 3 naman, the table 3.2, ito yung natural disaster escalation protocol. So that is for the DIMPG. So, we have here the DIMPG activation level and the conditions or situations para ma-transfer nila yung response o ganun. So, from the municipal level, there are 2 or more barangays or the entire in the entire municipal police station. Yun. So, merong 2 or more barangays that was being affected. So, dito is, that is for municipal police station level na ma-activate yung DIMPG. For PPO naman, or yung sa provincial level, there are 2 or more municipalities that are being affected in that entire province. Okay? So, dito is they can activate that DIMPG activation in this police provincial office or dito sa provincial level. For the regional level naman, there are 2 or more districts or provinces that are being affected by the disaster. So dito sa level na ito, they are going to activate the DIMPG. If there are 2 or more districts or provinces that are being affected or the entire region. Okay? So for NHQ or the national level, there are 2 or more regions that are being affected. So yun. So in each level, meron yung conditions or situations na situations that are being responded by this by each level and maitra-transfer nila to a higher level kapag hindi nila kaya yung situation or kapag yung buong municipality na yun, for example, is nasa lanta. So they will have to activate this DIMPG activation for response. Kapag dalawang municipality naman yung nasa lanta, they will transfer the DIMPG activation na tutulong doon sa provincial level para they will be the one to help. So that is for the Natural Disaster Escalation Protocol or DIMPG for natural disasters. Okay? So that ends my lecture in 4.1, the PNP Critical Incident Management Operational Procedure.
Our topic for today is all about hostage situation. In handling hostage situation, the following guidelines and procedure shall be undertaken. First, the first responder. The first responder shall secure the incident scene and establish perimeter security. So, kung tayo po ang first responder, kailangan po natin i-secure yung area, maglagay ng mga cordon kung maaari, at establish perimeter security. Number 2, Give situation update to concerned TOC and inform the hostage negotiation team for possible deployment. So, every time po is dapat updated yung mga TOC at ganun din po sa mga hostage negotiation team natin for possible deployment. Number 3, do not allow an authorized person at the incident scene. So, kailangan po is hindi basta-bastang mga tao ang papasok sa incident scene para din po sa kanilang or for safety na rin, and then para po iwas contamination sa mga evidences na nasa incident scene. Number 4, gather information about the hostage taker and the hostages from witness. So, magtanong po tayo sa mga witness and kunin lang po natin yung mga relevant or yung mga importanteng information about or tungkol sa mga hostage taker and then sa hostages. Number 5, reroute traffic law if necessary. Number 6, evacuate all person within vicinity of the incident scene. So, kung may mga tao sa incident scene or under the vicinity, kailangan po natin silang i-evacuate for safety reasons at para po iwas mga injury, lalo na kung may gagawing hindi mabuti yung hostage taker or magpaputok, ganun. Number 7, clear areas used for other responders. So, sa number 7 is kung may mga tao, dapat po clear yung daanan para sa ibang mga responder o sa ibang nating mga kasamahan. Number 8, establish Advanced Command Post or ACP. Number 9, initiate contact with the hostage taker through any available means. So, kung pwede is initiate contact with the hostage taker. Kung pwede po natin siyang kausapin at kung pwedeng may negotiate para iwas gulo or iba pang hindi kaaya-ayang pangyayari. Number 10, if the situation becomes volatile, request for deployment of HNT. So, kung talagang hindi paareglo ang hostage taker, then request agad sa mga HNT natin or yung mga hostage negotiation team natin. However, at any given time, if the hostage taker is neutralized, the HNT will be no longer necessary. So, kung na-neutralize po natin yung hostage taker or nakipag-areglo siya, then hindi na natin kailangang tumawag ng mga hostage negotiation team. So, number 11, brief the TL HNT of the situation and turn over the conduct of negotiation. So, pero kung talagang hindi maayos yung hostage taker, then brief or every time is dapat updated yung mga TL at saka yung mga HNT natin or yung mga hostage negotiation team, and then turn over din sa kanila para sa negotiation. Number 12, stay at the incident scene to maintain security, crowd and traffic control, preserve evidence and take custody of witness. So, dapat po is lagi tayong nandun para ma-maintain natin ang security, makontrol natin ang mga tao, and then ganun din sa traffic, lalo na kapag nasa highway or nasa highway ang incident scene natin or yung area. And preserve evidence and take custody of witness. So, kailangan laging preserve yung or fresh yung mga evidences, and dapat is take custody na, or i-secure din natin yung mga witness na nakikita sa pangyayari. Letter B is the incident commander. There shall be only one IC or incident commander holding at least senior rank and or one with experience in a stage crisis or situation or relative training, until such time that he or she officially designates a spokesperson. He or she may issue appropriate press statements and continue to perform the role of the spokesperson. So, the IC shall assess the situation, prepare necessary plans including but not limited of the following. So, letter A is the emergency response. For in case of emergency, the IC shall depend on the threat posed by the hostage taker and needed of the HNT and IC. Letter B, breakout plan. Possibility of breakout shall be considered immediately upon drawing up of negotiation strategy. This should be considered as one of the priority plans. Letter C, delivery plan. In case the hostage taker change plans in the middle of the execution. So, kailangan is ma-establish na or gumawa tayo ng delivery plan. Lalo na kung nag-iba ang plano ng hostage taker sa kanyang in the middle of the execution. Letter D, surrender plan. Surrender plan shall be drawn up in a way that the hostage lives will not be jeopardized. Letter E, hostage reception or release. For security reason, release hostages shall be contained and isolated. Letter F, the collection plan. Safety of the police personnel involved is the priority consideration. So, number 2. In handling hostage situation, the IC or incident commander shall be guided by the following. Letter A, negotiate. Situation must be stabilized first before the start of negotiation. All attempts to negotiate must be done by remote means. Adherence to the basic policy on safety of the stage shall be paramount. Do not allow outsider or non-law enforcement officer into the negotiation process unless their presence is extremely necessary in the solution of the crisis. If so, they shall be properly advised on the do's and don'ts of the stage negotiation. Provide relevant information to the tactical teams. All communication with the stage taker must be secured and protected. Always adhere the ethics of negotiation. Letter B, arrest. Arrest. The effect of the arrest of the stage taker when situation warrants. Restrain the stage taker and conduct thorough search on his or her body and the immediate vicinity of the incident scene. Inform the arrested person of the circumstances of his or her arrest and recite Miranda warning and anti-torture warning. All evidence must be secured and properly documented. Use reasonable force in arresting the stage taker. Facilitate the transport of the stage taker to the nearest police station. Letter C, hostage negotiation, or letter C, the tactical assault. It may be resorted to if the stage taker possesses imminent danger of causing death or injury to the negotiator or hostage. If the stage taker will do such thing or that makes injury to the negotiator or hostage. When all peaceful means were utilized and failed, and the stage taker is determined to become more violent. When peaceful resolution of the incident become impossible. Letter C, hostage negotiation team or the HNT. Negotiators shall be designated by IC or by the incident commander. No one shall be allowed to talk to the hostage taker without clearance from the negotiator or from the IC. The hostage negotiation team or the HNT is directly under the control and supervision of the IC. The HNT consists of the team leader, coordinator, primary negotiator, secondary negotiator, intelligence liaison or recorder, and the board of negotiator. The HNT shall set up negotiation operation team or NOC. Number 2, initiate contact with hostage taker and obtain other information. Number 3, give updates to the IC or to the incident commander and brief him or her of the current negotiation. Number 4, evaluate the necessary of resorting to other options without compromising the safety of the hostages. Number 5, recommend for activation of CMC and deployment of CIMTG if necessary. Number 6, facilitate all deliveries, hostage reception and release of possible surrender of hostage taker. And lastly, attend to all meeting called by CMC or the incident commander. Letter D, assault team. An assault team shall be alerted for deployment in case of the negotiation fails, or if the negotiation to the hostage taker will fail. Member of the assault team shall wear authorized and easily recognized uniform during the conduct of operation. Letter E, crowd control. Crowd control team shall be deployed to manage and control the crowd and augment the first responders in securing the perimeter. Letter F, support personnel. Support personnel shall include those in charge of managing traffic, firefighting, providing medical emergency assistance, and crime scene processing and rescue. Letter G, after the neutralization of the hostage taker and rescue hostages, the following process and debriefing shall be undertaken. First, clear and secure the crime scene to avoid contamination of evidence. If it necessary also, do not allow an authorized person to enter the crime scene to avoid contamination of evidence. Number 2, evacuate the hostage and other injured persons. So if the hostage taker release the hostage, we must evacuate them and secure the area and also help the other injured persons. Number 3, conduct CSI or crime scene investigation. Number 4, conduct the briefing on the stages and participating personnel. So conduct the briefing the briefing on the hostages and other person involved in the scene. Number 5, take sworn statement of the witness, hostage taker, and key participant in the incident. Number 6, initiate case conference to facilitate filing of cases. 7, issue press statement. So if it is necessary, then call for press statement or a meeting. Number 8, submit reports to the higher headquarters. And lastly, deactivate the CMC and CIMTG. So that's all, and thank you very much. And
I am Desiree Bulligan, and I will be reporting on the fourth rule, the public safety operations. For this topic, I'll be reporting on the bomb threat and bomb incident emergency responses and the civil disturbance management operations. For the bomb threat and bomb incident emergency response, first is the procedure upon receipt of any bomb threat. So first of all, treat all threats as serious until proven otherwise. So sabi nga nila, mabuti nang sigurado kesa sa huli ay tayo ay magsisi. And then next is to determine the exact location of the establishment under threat. So if somebody or someone reported about the incident, kunin sa kanila yung exact location where that incident happened. And third is to proceed immediately to the scene. Coordinate with the security manager or administrators, especially with the agencies who are in charge of bomb threat. Then fifth, conduct visual search in the area and isolate the specific place. If necessary, when a suspicious item is located without causing panic. So, conduct a search in the area and look on suspicious items. Next is to alert the explosive ordnance disposal team or the canine and notify the higher headquarters of any development and continue giving updates. Next, brief the EOD team upon arrival and assist if necessary. So, kung ano yung mga napansin na observe during conducting the visual research, you have to tell it to the explosive ordnance disposal team or at least brief them of what have you seen in the area. And lastly, provide security at the scene until such time when the team declares the area is cleared of any incendiaries or explosives. Next is the procedures if a suspected item is found and the explosive ordnance disposal team recommended an evacuation from the affected area. First, coordinate with the management or administrator to identify the safety areas for evacuation, and then assist in the evacuation of people without causing panic while the explosive ordnance disposal team conducts paneling procedures. And then third is to cordon the isolated area to prevent entry of unauthorized person. Fourth, coordinate with the management once the AOD declares the area as cleared and assist the people in resuming their businesses. So if it is confirmed na meron ngang explosive in that area, you have to help or assist in evacuating the people without causing panic, and then coordinate also with the management if the EOD team declares the area as cleared and it is okay for the people already to go back in that area. Next one is the procedure if the EOD team confirmed the presence of an explosive component or improvised explosive device. So upon receipt of the report, first is to report the progress of the incident to the TOC or the Tactical Operations Center for the following. First, summon ambulance and fire trucks to the scene and request for deployment of additional police personnel to establish traffic control, crowd control, and security. And second, lock down the affected area to a distance of at least 300 meters away. So if it is confirmed that there is an explosive component in that area, you have to lock down the area for at least 300 meters away from that area. So everyone or everything, especially people within 300 meters away, they have to leave the place. Next is the procedure in case of bomb explosion. So upon receipt of the report, identify exact location of the incident and proceed to the scene immediately. After locating the incident, you have to proceed immediately to that area. And next is direct the EOD teams to proceed to the area. Immediately inform as well the explosive ordnance disposal team about the incident. And third is to notify the higher headquarters of this situation and report the incident to the tactical operations center for the following. These are the This is to summon ambulance, fire trucks, and SOCA teams to the scene and other resources as may be determined. So in case na lalala yung situation, nakaabang na yung ambulance, the fire trucks, the BFPs, the SOCA team, and other agencies related to the incident. And request for deployment of additional police personnel to establish traffic control, crowd control, and security. And second, for the upon arrival at the scene. If you are in the scene already, first thing is to cordon the area at least 150 meters from the location of explosion and assist in the immediate evacuation of the injured if possible. So attend to the injured person if there are injured people in that incident, in that explosion. And third is to direct occupants of the establishments to evacuate. Ask everyone to leave the place. Next, maintain order and crowd control. Paalisin yung mga walang maitutulong na tao sa area for their safety. Fifth is to seal off location until the EOD team determines if a secondary device exists. And conduct rescue operations at the scene upon clearance of the EOD team. Next, assist the post-blast investigation or the PBI team and SOCO team upon clearance from the EOD team. Next is to submit initial incident report immediately with the following information: the time when the call for bomb threat was received, the time for detonation or explosion, and description of type of device. Next step in case of bomb explosion is to identify any witness and bring them to the nearest police station to obtain their statement. Next is to avoid issuing speculative press releases or statements. Iwas or to avoid issuing yung mga fake news about the incident. So, dapat after ng investigation and after all the processes, dun lang magkakaroon ng press release for sure and for real informations. And lastly, ensure operation with the investigator on charge or the IOC. We so work with the IOC. So this is all for the bomb threat and bomb incident emergency response. Basta, the very main point is to be alert and uh, to make sure of the safety of the people within the area. So that's the very main objective naman of the responding to bomb threat and bomb incident emergencies. So thank you. So for the next step on the civil disturbance management options, first would be the general guidelines. So the general guidelines is from the Batas Pambansa 880, or it is known as the Act ensuring the free exercise by the people of their right peaceably to assemble and petition the government for other purposes. So, for the first general guideline from the Batas Pambansa 880, Section 9, it states that, or it is known as the non-interference by law enforcement authorities. So in this Batas Pambansa 880 Section 9, it states that law enforcement agencies shall not interfere with the holding of a public assembly. So it is so the PNP units is tasked to maintain peace and order, and they have to stationed in a place at least 100 meters away from the public assembly or the area of activity, ready to maintain peace and order at all times. That's it for the Batas Pambansa 880 Section 9. And for the next guideline is from the Batas Pambansa 880 Section 10, or it is the police assistance when requested. So, in the absence of any permit from the LGU concerned, the PCO in command should exert effort in persuading the demonstrators to disperse peacefully and vacate the public place. In lightning rallies or demonstrations, the Grand Commander shall exhaust effort through dialogue with the leaders or organizers for voluntary dispersal. In case of failure, orderly dispersal to include apprehension of those responsible shall be resorted. Maximum tolerance must always be exercised for Batas Pambansa 880 Section 10. For the specific guidelines, first is the CDM contingent shall not carry any kind of firearms but may be equipped with batons or riot sticks, crash helmets with visor, gas mask, boots or ankle-high shoes with shin guards. So mostly they will only carry some equipments for their protection as well. They're not allowed to carry any kind of firearms. Second is tear gas, smoke grenades, water cannons, or any similar anti-riot device shall not be used unless the public assembly is attended by actual violence or serious threats of violence or deliberate destruction of property. So they are only allowed to use tear gas, smoke grenades, or water cannons if naging malala na talaga yung situation of the riot. And the third one is The organization and membership of CDM contingents, as well as their deployment and employment, shall be in accordance with existing PNP rules and regulations. So in every task pa rin na gagawin nila, rules and regulations are always observed. And fourth is for every CDM contingent, there shall be a team of negotiators. Lastly, is a separate security contingent may be organized and ready to provide immediate assistance to the CDM contingent as the need arises. So, and let's move on with the CDM operational tasks. There are 5 operational tasks. These are to isolate the area, secure likely targets, control the crowds, establish area control, and arrest violators. That's it for the operational tasks. For the CDM operational approaches, the commitment of a CDM contingent must be viewed as a last resort. Their role, therefore, should never be greater than what is necessary under the circumstances. But this does not mean that the number of troops employed should be minimized. Doubts concerning the number of troops required should normally be resolved in favor of deploying a large number, as it may prevent the development of situations in which the use of force would be necessary. A large reserve of troops should be maintained during civil disturbance operation. So if the situation ay nadadala pa sa masinsinang usapan, then be it as much as possible, uses of forces ay para lang talaga pag malala na yung situation. So that's it for the first one. And the second one is, in selecting an operational approach to a civil disturbance situation, the ground commander and his or her personnel must adhere to the procedures in force continuum in Chapter 2, Section 2 to 4 of this POP. The third one is efforts should be exerted to create the image of a restrained and well-disciplined force, the sole purpose of which is to assist in the restoration of law and order. Further, while CDM contingents should be visible, any activity which might excite rather than calm the situation should be avoided when possible. Fourth is consistent with the controlling principle that he or she must use the minimum necessary force to accomplish his or her mission. The Grand Commander shall equip the CDM contingent only with rattan sticks, truncheons, batons, shield, Kevlar helmets, and handcuffs. So as much as possible, walang firearms. So those are just the equipments allowed to use. Fifth, in situations requiring the use of batons, truncheons only target fleshly parts of the body such as arms, torso, legs, and thighs. Hitting protesters with a baton or truncheon on the head, face, neck, shoulder blades, elbows, fingers, groins, knees, and ankles must be avoided since strikes to these parts may cause serious to permanent injuries or even death. So the very main goal there kasi is for the peace and order. So, avoid din harming anyone or hurting anyone. So, yeah, and the sixth is the arrested protesters must be restrained, handcuffed, and brought safely to the police station for processing. So, kahit gaano pa kagulo yung nangyayari niyan, avoid hurting anyone. The best thing to do is to bring it safely to the police station for the next procedure for processing. And lastly, in any CDM deployment, there should be trained and equipped female CDM personnel. So, kailangan din ng female CDM personnel for a female din na person. And that's it for the civil disturbance management operations and for the bomb threat and bomb incident emergency responses. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so let's proceed to the next topic, the 4.5, which is on public assembly. Okay, so under public assembly, we have here the policies. Okay, so first here is that a PNP adheres to the Code of Conduct for Law Enforcement Officials, that is 1979, Article 2 to 3. So it was adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations, which it requires law enforcement officials to respect and protect the human dignity, to maintain and uphold the human rights of all persons, and limit the use of force to situations where it is strictly necessary and to the extent required for the performance of their duty. Gaya nung sabi ni Sir noon na sa Bill of Rights, wherein police must have to respect and protect the dignity of the people instead na sila yung magva-violate doon or mag-a-abuse sa mga tao. So, they must know this policy. Okay, another is that public assemblies held in freedom parks or on private property do not need a permit for the activity. So, another policy here is that the public assemblies that is held on freedom parks or any private property, they do not need a permit in order to conduct that kind of activity. Number 3, the PNP shall provide assistance only when requested by the leaders or organizers for maintenance of peace and order, or to ensure the safety of those participating in the public assemblies held in a freedom parks or on private properties. Kailangan lang nila yung PNP that would provide assistance if it was requested by the leaders or organizers na magkakandak ng public assembly na yon. Another, number 4, the public assembly held in a public place must have a permit from the mayor or of the city or the municipality exercising the jurisdiction over the place where it will be held. Okay, so isa na rin dito is they must get a permit from the mayor of the city kung meron silang ikakandak na public assembly, yung mga organizers or any leaders that will conduct that kind of activity. Number 5, a public assembly held with or without a permit may be peacefully dispersed. So, pwede silang ma-disperse yung walang permit doon na magkakandak ng public assembly. Kung meron namang permit, they will be dispersed as well if there is a violation of the terms and condition that was imposed in the permit. Okay, so in both cases, before they conduct any dispersal operation, itong mga PNP, they will notify yung mga organizers and leaders ng public assembly na yon. Number 6, the lightning demonstration or rallies in areas where public assembly is prohibited shall be dispersed peacefully. However, if the participants refuse to disperse voluntarily or they violate the law or an ordinance during that unauthorized public assembly, they will be taken into police custody to be charged accordingly. Okay? So, number 7, the ground commanders, they are the one that is responsible in determining whether there is a permit for the holding of the public assembly. Okay, so please note on that, the ground commanders, sila yung responsible na mag-find out kung merong permit yung mag-hold ng assembly na yon. Okay? Another is that, number 8, close coordination with the mayor of the city or municipality or his or her representative where the public assembly is being held should always be maintained, especially if the permit has not been issued, okay, but an application has been filed prior to the holding of the public assembly. Another, number 9, is maximum tolerance shall be exercised in conduct of the dispersal operations. Dapat na mag-conduct pa rin sila ng dispersal operations na they will keep peace. Ganon. So, letter B is police responses. Okay? After ng policies, letter B naman is police responses. So, the following are the police responses during planning stage, initial and peaceful stage, confrontational stage, violent stage, and post-operation stage. So, first here is the during planning stage. So, first is initiate dialogue with the leaders, organizers to ensure the peaceful holding of a public assembly, including among the others, the details of police personnel providing security in the area. So, they would create a dialogue muna with the leaders and organizers para ma-ensure nila yung peaceful holding of a public assembly. Okay? Letter B is, they will prepare appropriate security and CDM contingency plans. When we say CDM, that is Civil Disturbance Management Contingency Plans. Okay? So, yon. Number 2 is during the initial and peaceful stage naman. So, first muna itakal natin is yung with permit or that is held in freedom parks or private properties. So, first na gagawin ng PNP, they shall not interfere with the holding of a public assembly. Pero, they will ensure the public safety. Okay? They will also ensure the civil disturbance management, contingent, ganon. And they must have the under control and supervision of the PCO. PCO means Police Communication Officer. So, they shall be stationed at least 100 meters away from the area where the public assembly is being held. Para kapag merong man na mag-violate ng law or merong disturbance, they will go on that area. Okay? Number 2 is they will monitor the activities at the public assembly area and will respond they will respond if there is any request for their assistance. Okay? So, letter B naman is without permit or the permit has been revoked. Okay, so the first that the PNP will do is that they will be, as soon as it becomes apparent that an assembly is being held in public, yung ground commander, yung sabi ko kanina, they will conduct search kung meron bang permit yung assembly na iyon. And kung walang permit, i-verify nila sa office ng mayor ng city or municipality na iyon kung meron silang permit. Okay? So, kung walang permit na na-issue, yung leaders and organizers must be informed sa kanilang pag-violate ng law and must be asked to be dispersed peacefully. Okay? Number 2 is that the PNP will have to do all peaceful remedies to persuade the demonstrators to disperse. This may include yung mga involvement of local chief executives or yung mga community leaders when they are available to intervene in the situation para maging peaceful yung pag-disperse dapat ng assembly na yon. So, number 3 is that they will negotiate kung hindi successful yung negotiation nila at saka yung demonstrators refuse to disperse voluntarily, so they will cause a public inconvenience. So the CDM or the Civil Disturbance Management may commence dispersal operations after na in-announce ng commander na yung violations of the law that they have committed. So, such announcement, yung pag-announce nila sa violations ng mga leaders, they must at least do it in 3 times. Okay? So, number 3 is during breach of peace or confrontational stage. It is with or without permit naman. So, no public assembly with a permit shall be dispersed. However, when a public assembly becomes violent, the CDM contingents may disperse such public assembly in the following manner. So first, gagawin nila, they will sign an impending violence. And yung ground commander, he will call the attention of the leaders or the organizers of that public assembly and will ask the latter to prevent any possible disturbance. And the CDM contingents will hold the line to prevent the demonstrators from the proceeding to other areas where the holding of the public assembly is prohibited. Letter B, kung merong actual violence where it reaches to the point that rocks or other harmful objects where reaches from the participants are thrown at the CDM contingents or the non-participants, or kung merong damage that was caused to any property, yung ground commander, he will warn the participants na kung magpatuloy pa yung disturbance na yun, they will disperse the public assembly. And kung hindi pa, letter C, kung hindi pa nag-stop yung disturbance, the ground commander will issue a warning to those participants of the public assembly. And after a reasonable period of time to lapse, he will order the public assembly to disperse. So with the use of the CDM formations or civil disturbance management formations, the rank of demonstrators shall be disbanded. They will be contained, isolated from each other, and will be prevented from regrouping again. Okay, so letter D, water cannons and riot sticks may be used to repel the aggression and to disperse the demonstrators, and reserved CDM contingents may be employed when the situation requires. And letter E, there is no arrest of any leader, organizer, or participant shall be made unless this leader will violate a law, a statute, or ordinance during that assembly. Number 4 naman, that is during violent stage. So letter A, non-lethal weapons and equipments may be used to suppress the violence to protect the lives and prevent further damage to properties. Letter B, the PNP security elements shall be tactically deployed to provide immediate assistance to the CDM contingents. Number 5 naman, post-operation stage. So in here, CDM contingents shall be withdrawn after the area has been cleared of possible danger to public safety, and that sufficient public force shall be maintained to ensure peace and order in that area. So letter C, the dispersal of public assembly with permit. Okay, so all public assemblies with permit shall not be dispersed. However, when an assembly becomes violent, the police may disperse that public assembly in the following manner. Una, they will sign an impending violence. The ground commander of the PNP will ask the attention of the leaders and the public assembly and will ask them to prevent any possible disturbance. And kung merong, if actual violence reaches the point where yung rocks or other harmful objects from the participants are thrown to the police officers or any non-participants, or kung merong damage to any property, the ground commander will warn the participants that if that disturbance ay magpatuloy pa rin, the public assembly will be dispersed. And number 3, kung hindi pa nag-i-stop yung disturbance na yun or yung violence, the ground commander will warn the participants ng public assembly, and after a period of time na he will order it to disperse. So, walang arrest that may happen to any leader or organizer, participant, unless he or she violates during the assembly a law, a statute, or an ordinance. Letter D, that is dispersal of public assembly without permit naman. So when the public assembly is held without a permit, okay, where a permit is required, the said public assembly will be peacefully dispersed. But when the leaders of or organizers of that activity will show an application for permit that is filed at the office of the mayor, then the rally, or they will at least have 5 days prior to the intended activity, and the mayor did not act on the same, the grant of the permit being then presumed under the law, and it will be a burden of the authorities to show that there has been a denial of the application, in which case the rally may be peacefully dispersed following the procedure of maximum tolerance prescribed by the law. So letter E, let's proceed to the prohibited acts, yung hindi dapat nila gawin. Okay, so the following prohibitions provided by the Section 13 of Batas Pambansa shall be strictly observed. First, that is obstructing, impeding, disrupting, or otherwise denying the exercise of the right to peaceful assembly. Number 2, the unnecessary firing of firearms to disperse the public assembly acts in violation of paragraph D of this rule, and acts described hereunder if committed within 100 meters from the area of activity of the public assembly. Ito yung sinasabi ng number 4 natin. A, the carrying of a deadly or offensive weapon or device such as firearm, pillbox, bomb, and the like. The carrying of bladed weapon, malicious burning of any object in the streets or thoroughfares. The carrying of firearms by CDM contingents. The interfering or intentionally disturbing the holding of that public assembly by the use of motor vehicle or horns or loud sound systems. The drinking of liquor or alcoholic beverages and gambling of any kind. Letter F, we have here the guidelines in dealing with assemblies, rallies, demonstrations, and marches. So first, to ensure the protection, safety, and welfare of the public and demonstrators as well, the following must be observed. First, confined assemblies in private property, that is on churches, schools, and etc. So first na gawin nila is they will conduct a dialogue with the leader or organizer. Number 2 is secure and maintain order within that perimeter. Letter B, that is for confined assemblies naman in freedom parks. First, they will initiate the conduct of dialogue with the leaders again, and will secure also and contain the area with the limits of permits to ensure the orderly and peaceful conduct of that assembly. Pag naman sa mobile assemblies in a private area, they will conduct a dialogue with the leaders or organizers, and they will also secure and maintain order with that within that perimeter. Letter D, for marches or motorcades along public thoroughfares, yung gagawin ng mga police, they will initiate the conduct of dialogue with the leaders. And number 2, they will request for the permit from the leaders or organizers if the local ordinance of the area will require one. Number 3, they will ensure a peaceful conduct of that march and motorcades to ensure the public safety and to prevent compromise of public convenience. Number 2, there shall always be a designated ground commander at the rally site. Kailangan meron yung ground commander, and if necessary, they will provide a medical team to extend assistance. And all CDM operations or civil disturbance management operations will be properly documented with video and photo coverage. Okay, so that is all. That ends 4.5 lecture. Let's proceed to the 4.6 topic, that is procedures for responding PNP personnel in enforcing quarantine measures to manage health hazards. So since the outbreak of the COVID-19, the PNP has played a crucial role in supporting the government's efforts to control the disease and promote safer communities. Okay, COVID-19 may not be the last health hazard that the country will experience. It is therefore essential for the PNP personnel to enforce the quarantine measures to work together with other government agencies, the local government units, and the community in addressing other similar threats. So first, the initial response upon the impact of health hazards. The PNP responders who first arrived at the scene will initially and simultaneously perform the following. First, to assess and secure the scene, cordon and prevent the ingress and egress of individuals to the area of impact. Letter B, that is to ensure the observance of safety protocol and use personal protective equipments and respiratory protection against that health hazard. Letter C, in situations where the victims are directly exposed to a non-contagious health hazard that was assessed by the authorities, they will immediately evacuate them to a safe area while waiting for the emergency responders. Letter D, they will inform the chief of police or the station commander and the station transit-oriented communities, which will then call other emergency groups. Letter E, they will make a record of that initial emergency responders who arrived at the area and their actions taken. Number 2, that they will establish the incident command post or the ICP with the COP or the chief of police or the station commander, who shall initially act as the incident commander until such time that the mayor or the responsible officer have made an official designation of his/her incident commander. Okay, so number 3, they will immediately turn over the scene to the designated incident commander upon his/her arrival. So number 3 is that they will immediately turn over the scene to the designated IC or the incident commander upon his/her arrival. Number 4, they will assist the incident commander in matters pertaining to the provision of security and maintenance of law and order. Number 5, they will designate an investigator that will coordinate with the investigators from the BFP and other concerned agencies to gather relevant information if necessary. Number 6, if the health hazard is the result of an illegal act such as disposal of hazardous materials, the PNP may immediately effect the arrest of the identified suspects if warranted. And lastly, they will wait for the official announcement that the area of impact has been cleared from any health hazards before leaving the scene. Okay? So, letter B, when the health hazard becomes widespread and has affected many communities already. First, that they will do, they will assist the implementation of government-issued guidelines and issuances in mitigating the effect of that health hazards. Number 2, they will establish health hazard control points for the implementation of travel restrictions without compromising the movement of essential goods and authorized person, gaya nung sa quarantines or yung paggawa ng mga PNP checkpoints na ganun ngayong COVID-19, yung mga health protocols na sinasabi nila. Number 3, they will implement the guidelines in the observance of the minimum public health standards. 4, they will activate a law and order cluster and observe the CIMOP guidelines as well. Number 5, they will ensure that all PNP personnel renders duty in health hazard control points, isolation or quarantine facilities. They are using appropriate PPEs. Yung nagre-render ng duty in these kinds of quarantine facilities. Okay, so number 6, they will coordinate with the PNP Health Service in organizing and capacitating the Medical Reserve Force in the management of health hazard. Number 7 is they must assist the LGUs in the conduct of contact tracing when requested, gaya ng ginagawa ng PNP natin or yung mga government natin ngayong pandemic. Kay number 8, they must provide security in quarantine or isolation facilities, or they must escort in the transport of affected and infected individuals when requested. Okay? Number 9, they must observe proper decontamination procedures, protocol in coordination with the PNP Health Service or other authorized health offices. Okay, so letter C naman, that is the other activities relative to public safety and security. First, they must organize reactionary support and standby force or RSSF for the possible deployment. Number 2, they must also provide security in the arrival, transport, and distribution of goods and medical supplies. Number 3, they must conduct red teaming operations. 4, conduct awareness campaign through TRIMP and provide security to other government programs, activities that requires police assistance. Letter D, this is the arrest of violators in relation to health hazard laws, guidelines, and protocols. Okay, so the PNP personnel must be abreast of the prevailing directives or laws and ordinances relating to health hazards and must maintain copies of them. Number 2, they must the arrest shall be done in accordance with guidelines and procedures on arrest in Rule 2.6 of this POP and with the observance of the public health standards and protocol. Number 3, all arrested persons shall be subjected to an initial investigation and booking at a designated holding area if necessary. They must also be separated from other persons under police custody until they are cleared from any diseases or infection. Okay? Number 4, when the law or ordinance prescribes the penalty of the fine and allows the person apprehended to pay voluntarily the fine imposed prior to the filing of a formal complaint with the appropriate prosecution office, he/she shall be allowed to pay the said fine with the concerned city, municipality, or barangay where he/she was apprehended to avoid being criminally prosecuted. And lastly, they must respect for human rights and dignity of persons So This respect for human rights and dignity of persons shall be observed at all times to avoid abusing or violating the law that protects the human rights and dignity of all persons. Okay, so that is all that ends our topic regarding the rule for public safety operations. That's all, and I thank you.